They have yet to play one game as a member of the Southeastern Conference. And already we're concerned about Texas. We're concerned about their depth. Can Texas hold up their end of the bargain in the Southeastern Conference? Real grown-ass men football. So we have to ask the guy who's our friend, who's a grown-ass man who lives in Austin, Texas. Is Austin and Texas ready for the SEC?
What an intro.
It's the question we're asking again today.
What an intro for Chip Brown. Horns 247 at Chip Brown 247 on Twitter. What is up, Chip? How are you?
What's going on, fellas?
Not a whole lot. It seems like weekly we're getting a Texas running back injury. What is the level of running back concern right now for the Horns?
Yeah, it's they cannot afford another hit in that room. I think they're okay with Jaden Blue as RB1 and Trey Wisner as RB2. But when you consider 5 running backs last year had carries and or caught passes in Steve Sarkisian's offense, and they only have 4 scholarship running backs, and with Christian Clark's season-ending injury, you're really down to Jaden Blue, Trey Wisner, and freshman Jarek Gibson. I mean, Sark's got weapons. He's got receivers. He's got tight ends he likes, but they're going to have to put these running backs in bubble wrap for the rest of fall camp.
So, Chip, you and I talked about this last week. Texas averaged 35.6 points per game in 2023, en route to going to a college football playoff. They've lost their 2 leading rushers in Brooks and Baxter and your top 5 leading receivers. Yet you believe this offense can even be better this year. Can you explain that?
Yeah, I think Jaden Blue, in my mind, was RB1 coming off of last year. He's more explosive. All of the metrics show that he's 6.1 yards per carry compared to Baxter's 4.8. He averaged 9.6 yards per reception compared to Baxter's 6+ yards per reception. I think the receivers that Texas is going to be leaning on this year is a deeper group than the 3 stars that they had last year. Now, is someone elusive as Xavier Worthy? Well, I think the Texas coaches think that Isaiah Bond is someone as talented as A.D. Mitchell. I think they feel like Silas Bolden from Oregon State, Matthew Golden from Houston, Jonte Cook, the sophomore who returns at Texas, and then who can be, the slot receiver that Jordan Whittington was. I think they feel like DeAndre Moore can be, Sark said 5 of his top 6 receivers right now can play inside or outside. That's a lot of depth and versatility. He might be to the point where he was at Alabama in 2019 and 2020 with the depth at receiver. So he likes his tight ends. He's, Amari Niblack is competing with Juan Davis, a senior at Texas, who is showing them what they need to see as a down the field pass receiver and as a blocker. Amari Niblack still becoming a blocker the way that Steve Sarkisian likes it. And so, and you've got a year of maturity from Quinn Ewers. So there's a lot on Quinn Ewers' shoulders. He's got to manage this thing, but I think he's up for the job. That's why he came back. And the offensive line is a strength. It's one of the top 3 position groups on the team. So that's why I think the offense can take a step forward this year.
Chip, it was fun while it lasted for Texas in the SEC. You guys have never been to Orlando for a bowl game. I don't think it'll be really fun. Have you ever been to Disney? Gosh. It'll be a nice free trip. It'll be. I'm kidding. Texas is going to be fine. I do want to ask you though: are you getting some overreaction from fans? Sark's working them too hard. We got to slow down. We don't need to be working them too hard this early in the year. Are you getting any of that from the fans?
Well, fans are going to freak out when you have 2 injuries at the same position less than a week apart. That's fan is short for fanatic. So it's happening. It's definitely happening. But I think that part of the overreaction too is that in fall camp last year, Texas stayed healthy and they really did well, pretty well on the injury front last year. They didn't have season-ending injuries until Jonathan Brooks in November. So this is, this is like, and you know how it is when you don't have games to watch, you don't have replays to watch, your mind goes to the worst place. And so I think that's what's happening right now with the observers of Texas. And look, Steve Sarkisian, this is why he makes the big bucks, $10 million now. He's got to sort all this out and figure out how to make the best lemonade he can.
We focus so much with Chip Brown on offense. Chip Brown, Horns 247, with us on the JohnstonRVCenter.com hotline. Pete Kwiatkowski, excuse me. Sorry, Pete. It is a tough name. Pete Kwiatkowski's defense.
PK.
PK, is that what you go with? Okay, that's much easier.
Yeah.
PK's defense the last 2 years has been pretty good. I think 21, and then last year 18 per game. You think the offense is going to be better? Like if I give you points per game defensively, are they around the 18 to 20 where they've been the last couple of years?
Well, that's where they need to be. I mean, if they want to compete for the SEC championship, if they want to be a legit national title contender, they need to be lower than 18 points per game. Because you look at Georgia, good heavens, Georgia's top 5 offense, scoring, and top 5 scoring defense. So that's the big question, I think, in a lot of people's mind is, okay, you lose T'Vondre Sweat and Byron Murphy to, arguably the top 2 defensive tackles in college football last year, according to Pro Football Focus. Do you have what it takes? Is Alfred Collins and Vernon Broughton, 2 fifth-year seniors, are they ready to make that same kind of jump? Because Byron Murphy and T'Vondre Sweat were not starters before last year. They were behind Keandre Coburn and Moro Ojimo. I don't know if that's a bad coaching decision or what, but they got it out of them. And Alfred Collins is a really talented player. I think he's underrated, honestly. And so, they brought in 3 veteran transfers from the portal, including 2 from Arizona, where they were under new co-defensive coordinator Johnny Nansen. And I think they feel good that they have a 6-man rotation there, defensive tackle, with a bunch of really stud players around them at defensive end. Ethan Burke, Barron Sorrell. You've got Anthony Hill at linebacker. So I think they feel like they're going to be right there, maybe a little better, because I think the pass defense is going to be better. So, yeah, they need to be around 18 points per game if they're thinking about contending.
I know October 19th is circled when you've got Georgia coming to Austin. That's obviously one of the top 2 or 3 regular season games in college football in 2024. But if you ask Texas fans which second game scares them the most, I think this is fascinating because week 2, they go to the Big House to take on a Michigan team. At that point, will have 16 consecutive wins and still be your reigning national champions. They've got an Oklahoma team that really has owned them recently, including an upset win last year. And then you got to go to College Station to end the season. Of those 3 games, which one is probably viewed as the second most difficult behind Georgia?
A&M, because that place is bonkers, and it will be absolutely seismic when these 2 teams get together for the first time since 2011. And A&M, they wanted that game in College Station as a consolation prize for Texas coming into the SEC. Now, I've seen this work both ways. I remember going to Nebraska. In Nebraska's last game in the Big 12, the student section was full 3 hours before the game, and Texas ended up winning the game. Sometimes the pressure, it can mean more to the fans than it can to the players, and that somehow gets confusing for the players. But still, that game is going to be nuts. At least in the Cotton Bowl, Texas gets half the house. So that I've told you all, that's the greatest game day atmosphere in sports because it's divided at the 50-yard line. you have to kind of experience it to believe it. The sound never goes down until one team is tapping out. And so, Michigan, I think you're counting on Quinn Ewers in that game. He's got to navigate that Michigan defense. It's going to be a huge challenge. But if he's the quarterback you all saw in Tuscaloosa last year, and he needs to be better, because you're either green, as my man John Malkovich used to say, you're either green and growing or ripe and rotting. They need to be green and growing. I'll say A&M on that.
Hey, are Texas and OU fans okay with the 2:30 kick on that Red River game? I once thought they always wanted it at 11 because of the state fair. Are they okay with ABC putting it at 2:30 now?
I think they're okay with it. Gives them a little more time to get in the grape. It's not kegs and eggs. It's a little bit more of a tailgate. So I think they're okay with it.
Okay.
That game will never be at night. You can count on that.
Wow.
And what's the reasoning?
That it'll never be at night?
Yeah.
I think two reasons. It would be total chaos for the park to clear by 10. So that's almost impossible. And you just don't want those fan bases spending all day drinking.
That's what happened to the cocktail party. Now, there was an incident that led to this with the cocktail party, but that's why it was always 2:30 is one bad night game, and the SEC was like, we're not doing that again.
Yeah, well, I think it happened with Texas, Oklahoma. Correct me if I'm wrong. It was one of our trash stories probably 10, 15 years ago, Chip. But I think either an Oklahoma or a Texas fan had his testicles ripped off. Do you remember this story?
Yeah, I think I've tried to forget that one.
Yeah.
I don't remember that story.
Oh, yeah. Rockstar, do you remember that?
Was that on the Ferris wheel?
I don't remember.
Yeah, no, it was in a bar. Yeah, but they think literally got his testicles ripped off.
You got to get.
That's next level.
Well,
isn't it?
there are a lot of checkpoints you have to cross.
That is next level.
Yeah, I would say next level for sure. All right, he is Chip Brown at ChipBrown247. It's where you follow him on Twitter and catch all of his work there. Horns 247, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. Always good with your time, Chip. Thank you.
Hey, appreciate you fellas. Anytime.
All right, buddy.
See you in
soon.
Orlando.
See you soon. Chip with us on the JohnstonRVCenter.com hotline.
Splash Mountain. You'll love it, man. Great the day before the game.